If you've never tried a Dutch baby before, this is a German pancake that puffs up quite dramatically in the pan and then it settles down into this eggy deliciousness. It comes together real quick with a simple batter, and it's such a perfect breakfast or brunch item to have on a cozy morning. And since it contains more eggs than a traditional pancake, you know you're really reaching your protein requirements and it'll keep you well nourished throughout the day. So don't let this recipe intimidate you, and let's give it a try together. I highly recommend you have all your ingredients at room temperature. I actually forgot to take my eggs out of the fridge, so a quick trick just to speed up the process of getting them to room temperature is to put them in a bowl of water, at room temperature water, that is. One of the key steps to making this pancake is to blend the batter in a blender. This will allow for a lot of air to get trapped within the batter, and that's what really lends itself to the unique puffiness that you'll see later on when we cook it. Here you see me adding 3 eggs to the blender, and you could also double this recipe or triple it. Just make sure you use a larger size pan to cook it in. But I'm just making one batch here, and I'm making it really as a quick breakfast for my kids this morning. After adding the eggs to the blender, I like to give it a couple pulses just to start in getting some air into those eggs. And then I'll add the remainder of the ingredients and I will put it back into the blender again. I had seen this recipe quite a few times before I actually took it upon myself to make it. It tends to look a bit more, I don't know, intricate than really it is. It seems to be more of a difficult process when you see the final results of the puffy pancake, but in reality, it's such a simple recipe and can be made so quickly. And honestly, it's easier than a pancake because you don't have to sit by the stove, flipping the pancakes and waiting for them to cook. Rather, you just kind of put it all in the oven and wait till your timer's done, and then they're ready to serve. Similar to a classic pancake, you have eggs, milk, salt, sugar, and flour. I have the exact measurements written in the description below. And if you like this recipe and want others, please make sure to like and subscribe to my channel. When it comes to measuring ingredients, I really like to use a kitchen scale because I know it's much more accurate. But for this recipe, you don't have to be super exact. It has a lot of room or margin for error, or, margin for you to put a tad bit more or a tad less than necessary. But when it comes to the flour, try to be more accurate with that because you don't want a really dense pancake or you don't want a really runny pancake. So just reaching that good texture and consistency is important. Once we get all the ingredients in the blender, we are going to pulse it for about 5 to 10 seconds. It doesn't take long for this batter to come together. And then I'm actually going to leave it on the counter just to rest while I warm up a pan in the oven. So I've turned my oven on to 400 degrees and I'm taking out a 10-inch cast iron skillet and I'm placing that in the oven to heat. While I wait for the cast iron pan to heat, I'm going to cube up some butter. So it's important that we have the butter ready so that we can throw it into the cast iron when it is fully heated. Unfortunately, just like how I forgot to take out the eggs, I forgot to take out the butter. And so my butter here is quite frozen. I am struggling a bit to cut pieces out of it, but eventually we get there and I'm able to get enough butter. I am going to just quickly place it on a plate, measure it out on the scale first, and leave it aside while I wait for the cast iron. The butter is what really gives this pancake these crispy edges and saltiness, and that's just, delicious to have in a pancake. This German pancake is nothing I grew up eating. It was something I really discovered when I was looking for ways that I could, up the protein content when it came to breakfasts or snacks for my kids. I wanted to make sure that they were getting enough protein and especially eggs because they're such a good source of protein. So this is just one of many recipes that I use in order to make sure my family is well nourished. I threw the butter cubes into the pan there, and then I placed it back into the oven. It takes about 5 minutes for the butter to get fully heated, and it's just lightly getting browned. You don't want to burn that butter though. So here you can see that I have some browned butter, but like I said, it's not burnt. You don't want burnt butter, that won't taste very good. Now is when we pull the batter and we pour that into the pan. So make sure to get every last drop. And once that's done, you want to quickly put it back into the oven. I did reduce the temperature of the oven, so I brought it down to 350, and it's going to take about 15 minutes to cook here. Resist the urge to open the oven and check on it, because you need all of the heat to allow it to puff up nicely. Now, unfortunately, after it puffs up, it very quickly sinks back down. So you're going to open the oven and you're going to see this puffy pastry-like thing, and then maybe within a minute or two, it's going to sink back down to this level. So here is our final product. It just looks like a gooey, eggy pancake. And what I like to do is either put some powdered sugar on it or some maple syrup. My kids really like to have jam and sometimes fresh fruit, or whatever we have on hand. And so I'll just top it with that, and then I'll serve it to them. On this day, my kids actually ended up eating the whole Dutch baby pancake. They loved it. They wanted seconds. I have 3 younger kids. They're 5, 4, and 2.5. And so between the 3 of them, they ate this whole thing. If you are trying to serve this to a larger family, I do recommend making more than one. So you could have either 2 cast irons going, or sometimes I'll take out my really large cast iron pan and make a much larger version of this. Here was my daughter's slice, and I hope you give it a try and enjoy.